How to predict someone's next move before they make it. Power lives in the space between what people say and what they actually do. And right now, someone in your life is playing you. Maybe it's your business partner. Maybe it's someone you trust completely. The scariest part? They're counting on you not noticing. Federal agents spend years mastering one skill above all others: reading human patterns like code. And once you crack that code, you see the matrix everywhere. People become predictable. Deception becomes obvious. And you gain something most never experience: true control over your own reality. In 1978, a researcher named Paul Ekman proved something that shook the psychology world. He showed that humans display the same 7 core emotions across every culture on Earth: anger, fear, disgust, contempt, joy, sadness, surprise. These aren't learned behaviors. They're biological responses hardwired into our nervous system. But here's where it gets dangerous. When someone tries to hide these emotions, they leak out in micro-expressions lasting less than a quarter second. Most people miss them completely. Trained observers catch them every time. Law 3 of power warns: conceal your intentions. While you're being transparent, strategic players are hiding their real agenda behind practiced smiles. The FBI trains agents in something called behavioral baseline analysis. It's simple, but devastatingly effective. You watch someone in a neutral state, how they gesture, speak, breathe when they're relaxed. That's their baseline. Then you monitor for deviations. When someone who usually maintains eye contact suddenly looks away during specific topics, that's a flag. When their speech speeds up or slows down dramatically, that's data. When their body language shifts from open to closed, something triggered that change. And that trigger is where the truth hides. Here's the disturbing reality most people refuse to accept. We're surrounded by performance. Social media trained an entire generation to curate personas instead of developing authentic selves. Everyone's selling a version of themselves that serves their interests. Your coworker pretending to be your friend while angling for your position. The influencer selling you a lifestyle they don't actually live. The politician promising change while protecting the system. They're all wearing masks. And those masks only work because most people don't know how to look past them. Your first practical action to gain this power: for the next 48 hours, study hand movements in every interaction. When people feel confident and honest, their hands are visible and expressive. When they're uncomfortable or lying, hands disappear into pockets, behind backs, or get busy touching their face. Watch for what interrogators call pacifying behaviors: rubbing the neck, touching the nose, covering the mouth. These are unconscious attempts to self-soothe under stress. Document 3 instances where you catch someone's hands betraying their words. Don't confront, just observe. Awareness without reaction is the first level of mastery. The truth is simple: those who control information control outcomes. And the biggest information advantage isn't what you know, it's what you notice that others miss. If you're ready to see what's really happening around you, drop the word "awakened" in the comments and hit that like button. Subscribe, because what's coming next reveals the dark psychology behind manipulation itself. Why your brain is wired to trust liars. There's a war happening inside your head right now, and you're losing. Your brain evolved to trust tribal members because suspicion meant isolation, and isolation meant death. That ancient wiring still runs your decision-making today, which means you're biologically programmed to give people the benefit of the doubt, even when evidence screams otherwise. Predators know this. Manipulators exploit it. And unless you reprogram that default setting, you'll keep falling into the same traps wearing different faces. Robert Cialdini, psychologist who spent decades studying influence, uncovered 6 weapons of persuasion that bypass rational thinking entirely: reciprocity, commitment, social proof, authority, and scarcity. These triggers are so powerful that even when people know they're being manipulated, they still respond. Salesmen use them. Cult leaders weaponize them. That person trying to control you right now is probably using 3 of them simultaneously without even realizing it. They become instinctive tools in the human manipulation toolkit. And the only defense is conscious awareness of when your buttons are being pushed. Law 14 of power states: pose as a friend, work as a spy. The most dangerous manipulators don't look like villains. They look like allies. They mirror your body language, adopt your speech patterns, agree with your opinions. It's called rapport building in sales, love bombing in toxic relationships, and grooming in predatory contexts. The mechanism is identical. Create artificial closeness to lower your defenses. Once you trust them, once you're emotionally invested, they have leverage. And leverage is control. Watch for people who agree too much, who have no friction with you, who seem almost too perfect. Real humans have rough edges. Fake ones are polished smooth. Federal interrogators look for something specific they call inappropriate affect. When someone's emotional response doesn't match the situation, alarms go off. Smiling while discussing something tragic. Showing anger when describing something they claim doesn't bother them. Excessive calmness when they should be nervous. These mismatches reveal the mask slipping, the performance breaking down, because maintaining a false emotional state requires cognitive energy, and under pressure, people default to their true feelings before catching themselves and adjusting. Your second practical action is what agents call the consistency test. Pick someone in your life who you interact with regularly. Over the next week, present them with the same request or question multiple times in different contexts. Notice if their answer or reaction changes based on their mood, who else is present, or what they want from you in that moment. Consistent people give consistent responses because they're operating from genuine beliefs. Inconsistent people adjust their truth based on circumstances because they're managing perception, not expressing reality. The hidden cost of deception isn't just being lied to, it's making decisions based on false information that derail your entire trajectory. One bad hire, one toxic relationship, one dishonest partner. That's all it takes to lose years of progress. If this is reshaping how you see people, type decoded in the comments. Smash that like button and subscribe, because the next part exposes the manipulation techniques being used on you right now. What the FBI knows about lies that you don't. Every lie leaves fingerprints, and those fingerprints are everywhere once you know where to look. The problem isn't that people are good liars. The problem is that most people are terrible detectives. We want to believe. We need to trust. So we ignore the evidence staring us in the face until it's too late. But there's a specific moment in every deception where the truth reveals itself. Federal agents call it the tell. And missing that moment costs people everything: their money, their safety, their future. Aldert Vrij, one of the world's leading experts on deception detection, discovered something counterintuitive. Liars don't always avoid eye contact. In fact, practiced liars often overcompensate by maintaining too much eye contact, knowing that's what people expect from honest communication. The real indicators are more subtle. Liars use fewer hand gestures because their cognitive load is maxed out constructing the lie. They provide fewer details because details create opportunities to contradict themselves later. They distance themselves linguistically, saying, "that woman" instead of "my wife," or "the car" instead of "my car." These micro-choices expose the psychological separation between them and their fabricated story. Law 33 of power reveals, discover each person's Achilles heel. Everyone has pressure points, fears that override logic, desires that cloud judgment. When you identify what someone values most: status, security, validation, control, you understand their decision-making pattern. You can predict their choices before they make them. This isn't about exploitation. It's about protection. Because when you understand someone's motivations, you're no longer confused by their actions. You see the puppet strings, and once you see them, nobody can manipulate you by pulling yours. There's a phenomenon intelligence agencies have documented for decades. People reveal themselves through their accusations. What someone constantly accuses others of doing is often exactly what they're guilty of themselves. The partner obsessively worried about cheating is usually the cheater. The politician screaming about corruption is neck deep in it. The business associate paranoid about betrayal is already planning theirs. It's psychological projection running on autopilot. They can't help but telegraph their own sins, because that's where their mind lives. Pay attention to what people accuse you of without evidence. That's their confession. Your third practical action is building what investigators call a deception inventory. For 1 week, document every time someone makes a promise, commitment, or claim. Then track whether they follow through. Not their excuses for why they didn't. Not their intentions. Just the binary. Did they do what they said? Yes or no? After a week, you'll have objective data showing who operates with integrity and who operates with convenient narratives. Most people fail this test spectacularly, and those who fail it are actively dangerous to keep in your inner circle. Data doesn't lie, even when people do. The difference between the powerful and the powerless is simple. The powerful verify everything, while the powerless believe everything. If you're starting to see the game beneath the game, write illuminated in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe, because the final part reveals how to use this knowledge without losing your humanity in the process. How this one skill protects you from every threat. There's a line you cross when you learn to see through people, and on the other side of that line, nothing is ever the same. You can't unsee the patterns. You can't unhear the contradictions. Every conversation becomes layered with subtext. Every relationship reveals its transactional elements. Some people reach this point and become cynical, isolated. Others reach it and become unshakable, protected, free. The difference isn't what you know, it's how you carry what you know without letting it poison you. Jack Schaefer, former FBI special agent and behavioral analyst, spent his career in counterintelligence identifying foreign spies operating on American soil. These weren't criminals making mistakes. These were trained professionals whose lives depended on maintaining their cover. And yet, Schaefer caught them. How? He understood something most people never grasp. Everyone leaks their truth, eventually. The mask always slips. Not because people are incompetent, but because maintaining a false identity requires constant energy, and humans are terrible at sustained deception. You just have to watch long enough. Patient observation beats aggressive interrogation every single time. Law 48 of power, the final and most advanced principle, instructs, assume formlessness. Don't lock yourself into rigid patterns that others can study and exploit. Be adaptable. Shift strategies based on circumstances. When you master reading people, you also learn when to show your cards and when to keep them hidden. This isn't about becoming fake. It's about becoming sovereign. You choose what to reveal and what to protect. You stop being manipulated by others' agendas because you see them coming 3 moves ahead. And that awareness creates freedom most people never experience. Here's what nobody tells you about developing this skill. You'll lose people. Some will drift away because you stop tolerating their games. Others will attack you because you stopped being easy to control. A few will even call you paranoid for seeing what they want to keep hidden. Let them go. The relationships worth keeping survive increased discernment. The ones that don't were built on your blindness, not mutual respect. Quality always beats quantity when it comes to who gets access to your life, your trust, your energy. Your fourth and most critical practical action, implement what crisis negotiators call the 72-hour rule. Before making any major decision involving another person, hiring, investing, partnering, committing, give yourself 72 hours of observation after the initial interaction. High-pressure tactics rely on forcing immediate decisions before you can think clearly. Con artists, toxic people, and predatory operators all use urgency to bypass your rational mind. The 72-hour buffer lets you separate emotional reactions from strategic thinking. Watch for people who push against this boundary. Anyone rushing you into a decision that benefits them is someone who doesn't want you thinking clearly. That resistance itself is the answer you need. True power isn't dominating others. It's being impossible to dominate. And that starts with seeing clearly what most choose to ignore. If this knowledge just shifted your entire worldview, drop sovereign in the comments below. Smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and share this with someone who needs their eyes open. Real change happens when truth spreads faster than lies.